3 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few wide receivers. I have his sleepers this week. The first guy's Quintez Cephas of the Detroit Lions. So Cephas, so far, the first 2 weeks of the season, he's reached double-digit fantasy points in PPR leagues. Week 1 versus San Francisco, 3 catches, 12 yards, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion on 6 targets. And Week 2 at Green Bay, 4 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. So right here, I know Tyrell Williams is banged up, but the rookie Cephas, he's looked good so far in the first couple weeks. And Jared Goff, trust him. And this is a Detroit Lion team that's going to be trailing a lot of ball games this season. They're going to have trouble scoring the football, and Goff's going to have to throw the football anywhere from 35 to 50 times a game. And this week versus Baltimore is going to be another ball game, in my opinion, where he's going to have to go out there and just keep throwing. Cephas, he's one of the only healthy wide receivers on this roster, and obviously one of the only playmakers. He's still available in 83% of fantasy leagues, but this week, if you need a sleeper option at wide receiver, I think Cephas is a pretty good guy to put in there in your lineup, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him reach double digits in fantasy points once again for the first 3 weeks in a row. The next wide receiver is KJ Osborne of the Minnesota Vikings. So another recommended pickup on the waiver wire this week was Osborne, and he got added in 23% of fantasy leagues. So the first 2 weeks of the season, this guy's been a great slot and number 3 receiver here for this Minnesota Viking team. Week 1 at Cincinnati, 7 catches, 76 yards on 9 targets. And Week 2 at the Cardinals, 5 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. So Week 3, another shootout it's going to be here, in my opinion, with Minnesota and the Seattle Seahawks in Minnesota. So the fast turf, the fast track, Kirk Cousins, he's looked good. But this Minnesota Viking team, 0-2 in this ball game, once again, I think we're going to see a lot of big games from these players in both teams. And we're going to see Osborne possibly find the end zone once again. But I'm going to manage it a little low here and predict 60 or 70 yards with 4 or 5 catches. And I think that's pretty solid for a PPR flex or a third wide receiver guy if you play 3 wide receivers in your fantasy leagues. And the third and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper this week's Quez Watkins, Philadelphia Eagles. So Watkins, I recommended him as an ad last week, and he only got added in 2% of fantasy leagues. Well, last week versus the San Francisco 49ers, he almost had a 100-yard touchdown in that game, a 91-yard reception, and he only finished the game, though, 2 catches for 117 yards. And Week 1 in Atlanta, 3 catches for 23 yards. But this guy's a playmaker. He's a speedster as well. And right here in Week 3 at the Dallas Cowboys, who get burnt and they can't stop anyone at wide receiver, I think Quez Watkins could definitely find the end zone in this game. It wouldn't surprise me to see him have a big game with 70, 80 yards and a touchdown. And right here, him and Jalen Hurts have had a decent rapport. And as the weeks go on, his snaps are going to go up as a third wide receiver. And I have a feeling he's going to find the end zone as Watkins. So that's a few wide receiver sleepers here for Week 3 of the fantasy football season.